Mic check. Mic check. Hello, everyone. Going to turn the camera on in just a minute. We are going to start off the night with a little bit of Dresden. Camera, face cam. There we go. Dresden. Oh, baby boy. Oh, yeah. I know you were sleeping, but you were sleeping where I needed to stand. Oh, thank you for the licks. That hurts. Oh, so sleepy. I know, you're just sleeping where I was standing, where I need to stand. You can have my chair now that I'm not sitting in it. Oh, it's so cute. Yeah. Okay, Tristan, I don't need you to groom me. I'm okay. I do it myself. Trust me. I'm actually better at it than you are. Okay, okay. All right, little boy. All right, here you go. Uh, silly cat. Silly cat. How's everybody doing today? If you're watching the VOD, how are you? Whatever day it is, whenever, just write in the comments. Welcome to add your input. I'm gonna get my palette out. We'll see how dry it is because these these colors just dry so freaking fast. Hey Des, welcome. How are you doing? I'm just grabbing my palette now. Yeah, I might have to clean it up. We'll see. I'm actually gonna do this on the floor. Cleaning the palette sometimes requires too much pressure for the palette while it's on the easel. So I prefer to do it on the floor. Oh, that noise. I don't know if you can hear that noise, but that is not a pleasant noise. It's metal scraping on glass. I do not enjoy this at all. Oh, that's awful. There is an alternative if you have the time. You can use rubbing alcohol, and you have to give it a little bit of time, but it does dissolve the. Oh, that noise! It does dissolve the oil, the dried oil paint, and lets you lift it off a lot easier. To be fair, it doesn't normally sound this bad. I don't know what's going on today. All right, let's see. You scraped your glass palette yesterday. It was satisfying. I even did my glass stovetop. My blade's probably at the wrong angle, and also probably need to replace the blade, honestly. It's been using the same blade for I don't know how long. It's been a long time. Yeah, the angle definitely makes a difference, but also this paint gets so hard in comparison to my other paint. Gonna sneeze, gonna sneeze. I just made it in time and muted it so I didn't blow out everyone's ears. My blade isn't one of the some of the blades have two sides to them. Mine doesn't. It's one-sided only. It's not a big deal. Blades are cheap, and I haven't. And literally, I've used the same one for years, so. Okay. Mic working again? Yeah. All right. Great. I mean, ideally, you don't want to. Like, if we're talking ideal situation, it's better to scrape your canvas or your palette while it's while everything's wet. You know, ideally. But yeah. Alrighty. Get to the painting. That was very close. Camera did not appreciate that. All right. So this painting is, of course, dry at this point, completely. Like, I'm not even. I'm like 0% worried that it's not dry. Uh, so I'm going to have to oil it out, get back to painting. There are just a couple of minor corrections I'm probably going to have to go in and do. I'm looking at it right now. Honestly, I've been able to keep a lot of the what's it called? Um, a lot of the aspects pretty on point. There's like one or two spots, but it's very, very minor. Also, it's worth mentioning in case anyone's like trying to get into painting and they want to do the system that I'm doing to like get my drawing correct, which is I'm using Photoshop to help me. I'm overlaying my um, my reference over my painting and so on. It's worth keeping in mind that it's not a perfect one-to-one, right? Like the lens does some distortion, and even if you get all the corners in the right place, like the way the lens distorts the image is not perfect. Um, there are in Photoshop profiles that can help you mitigate that and so on, but like it also doesn't matter, right? Like right now I'm looking at it and this fold right here in the when I'm overlaying the two is like, a hair further up, right? It doesn't matter. Like that is not an important detail to be worth changing, like doing big modifications for, right? Now, I'm not saying like as I paint it, I'll probably kind of slowly scoot it up a little because I do have to render areas here. So I'll take that into consideration as I go about it. But I'm not like, I don't have to go in and like sketch it out and draw it and make sure I move everything. It's not that important of a detail. It doesn't matter, basically, is what I'm getting at. Even the face, depending on the circumstance, doesn't matter that much. So it just depends, right? I'm just mentioning it because I don't want people to be like, "Oh my god, I got to get everything absolutely correct all the time." And worry too much about it. Sometimes like some of the best paintings in the world are not accurate. And it doesn't matter. No one cares. All right, so let's start by oiling it out. So for oiling out, I say this every time, but I will continue to say this every time. I use oleo gel. Um, it is my favorite. If you can't access oleo gel because it's through Nature's Pigment, whatever for whatever reason, um, Gamblin has a solvent-free gel that's very close to oleo gel. And if you don't have access to that or don't want to, you can use regular linseed oil or walnut oil. Just make sure, especially with walnut oil, that it's a very thin layer because that stuff is slippery and you don't want it to be, you know, you don't want it to be too much. Also, if you use walnut oil, it will slow your drawing time, just which is a good or bad thing depending on what you want. No, I didn't mean to do that. Trying to silence my phone. There we go. All right. So let's see. Oh my God, it might actually not be completely dry. We'll see. I have a hate a hate relationship with raw umber because it dries super fast. Um, so we'll see. I get frustrated with it drying on my palette. Like I don't mind it drying on the canvas if that's what I want, but I hate that it dries on my palette. All right. So for anyone who is new today, I should talk about the painting a little bit. And by the way, any questions, if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to ask. I'm totally down for talking about whatever. As far as this painting goes, it is a self-portrait. I mean, it's from a selfie I took at the beach. I'm doing an exercise for a class with Nicholas Uribe, who is a fantastic painter. I can talk more about him in a minute. But it's a class on color, and we're using a special palette for this one exercise, which is a very limited palette. And it's raw umber, raw umber, yellow ochre, transparent earth red, and titanium white. So very, very limited palette. No cool colors you might notice, which makes my choice of doing a painting of me at the beach on a sunny day wearing a blue shirt questionable. We'll say that. It's actually really good. I'm learning a ton from it. But yeah, if this looks blue, it's not blue. This is not a blue color. It is raw umber mixed with white. And because titanium white is basically the only cool color I have any kind of access to, it also means that this painting has to be a high key painting if I want, you know, my blues to look cool. I have to add white to them, and so they have to be in a higher key. So because if I try and do dark, if I try and make it dark, it'll look like, raw umber, which is kind of a brownish, I guess, walnut kind of color, like brown, deep, it's a beautiful color, but it doesn't look blue, tell you that much. So yeah. So very challenging. So that's why the title of the stream today, and that's why this painting looks like this. And one of the main focuses today is going to be getting the background in place because like I said, it's self-portrait, so I have long hair. My hair is kind of wild in this photo, and I need to be able to like paint the hair over the background. So yeah. Other than that, what I usually do in the beginning of my painting is I'll go in and I kind of address any of the areas that I need to fix the drawing in, because of how I paint and maybe because of my own shortcomings, my paintings tend to kind of drift around, like the details and the little certain aspects of it, mostly just the edges of things kind of drift around a little bit. And so I usually spend a bit of the beginning of a painting session just kind of wrangling things back into place. Um, you know, I can't actually paint, when I'm doing this, I can't actually uh, paint like I can't see the value, I should say, I can't see the values of the reference. So I can't really do, I have a limited amount of painting ability. It's more just for placement purposes. For the colors, since I can't see them, I usually just match what I can see already on the painting, knowing that I'll be going in later and changing things. You may see some brighter colors here on my palette. This is from my normal palette that I usually use. I'm not using any of those in this painting, but yeah, I usually paint with much brighter colors. How are you doing, Des, by the way, if you're still here? I know you've been struggling with some painting stuff lately. We've been talking on Discord. Still here? Awesome. You ordered some hot pink, it should help. That's good. I remember way back when, this is like, what year would it would have been 20, I think it was 2019. Yeah, it had to be 2019. I remember um I was trying to paint a, I think it was I don't remember if it was a photo or if I just placed it, but it was a still life of an orange and a tomato and something else. I don't know, whatever. Um, it does says other than that, I'll get those darks in. Nice. And I'll talk about the lights in a minute, in just a minute. But yeah, I was trying to paint an orange and it was an orange or tangerine and a tomato and some other stuff. And I was using Gamblin, I think they're 1980 or whatever, their student grade paint. And I think I had CAD, what was it? CAD Red Light, which isn't a real CAD, by the way, because they student grade and it's not a real CAD. It might have like a touch of it, but it's got other pigments mixed in, which means it's not really a CAD. And then, and I had, I think CAD Yellow Light, which once again, not real CAD. Um, and basically I ran into the problem where I could not get my orange to be as bright as I needed it for the brightest part of the orange. And then when I went to do the tomato, um, I also couldn't match the tomato. And in fact, my tomato ended up being closer to the color of the orange, and it was causing me a lot of problems. I wonder if I still have that painting. I'll go look for it. I might have it like right over there, or I don't have it at all. Um, yeah, that one, I don't think I ever solved it properly. That was clearly an instance where um, I hit at that moment, I hit the limitation of the paint, of the physical properties of the paint, and also of my ability to deal with it. Like I did not have the proper ability to deal with it in the proper way. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to fix it. I knew theoretically, but I couldn't execute it, I don't think. Like I said, I'll have to look and see. Maybe I pulled it off eventually. Yeah. Um, but yeah, it is hard when you hit the limitations of the paint. You have another painting plan and you realize a very similar color is going to require a small part where the sun is shining through a stem. So the thing is, like, the thing about it is that, like, there's always going to be limitations like this, and especially if you're using paint. Digital has less limitations. Like digital, you know, our screens emit light, so you get a larger range of colors that you can produce. Paint is more limited, and it's just one of those things you have to work within those limitations. Um, the a great example of this is Andrew Kadima on he's online, but on Instagram he does all these like paintings with like weird colors or like random, combinations or whatever. But the thing that's great about it is he shows how, with just two sometimes very odd colors, you can still do a painting. Uh, you just kind of have to adjust everything in your head or on the screen, which is the thing I wanted to get to. One of the biggest problems I ran into early on, I use my screen for reference. And if you compare the white that comes out of your screen to titanium white, which I'm using, it's not even close, right? Like the screen is so much brighter that you know, titanium white doesn't have a chance. Like not even close. Um and because of that, it throws off your entire balance of what you're looking at and what you're painting. Like it throws everything off. So one of the things I did early on was I just lowered the brightness of my reference screen. Like literally, that's all I did. I just lowered it. Um, made it a lot darker. And then a lot of times I will in Photoshop adjust my curves as far as like the brightness and you know, and how dark and the darks too, because you got to adjust everything appropriately. Yeah. So anyone who's using a monitor for reference, and I know a lot of people do, that is something to just be aware of. Like it is, our screens are way more capable than our paints as far as reproducing color and how bright they get. So if you have to do something that's glowing, a lot of times what you have to do is actually lower the brightness of everything else to make it glow. Because you have to do it's the effect of glowing, not actually making it glow. Either that or you paint on something transparent and you blast it with light from behind, which is also an option. Like some people do that as, for their paintings. It's not traditional, but, like I'm not going to give you a hard time for doing that. There's all kinds of ways of achieving cool stuff in art. Nope. Wrong color. I don't know what was going in my head right now. Totally just bloop. Wrong one entirely. The other thing I have to do in this painting is I have to like boost up the levels of all the other colors, the saturation, so that uh, the not very gray looks more gray. Yeah, like I said, I feel like I'm actually really learning a lot from this because it's always good to push yourself out of your comfort zone, but this is I do question how successful this is going to end up being in the long run. I think it's going to be a fine painting. Don't get me wrong. I actually think it's coming along really nicely. I think it's going to be a fine painting. I just don't know if I'm going to achieve the blue or the grayness that I kind of want to, but that doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's going to be a fine looking painting, in my opinion. Obviously that's everyone has their own opinion, but yeah. Right now I have to paint, like I said, the water in the background. At least most of it. Like I don't think I'm going to put in the highlights. Like this is the surf breaking there. I'm not going to bother putting in all of that yet because that goes on at the end because I'm going to put it on thick and get that like impasto stuff going. So this is an oversimplification putting in like yellow like this right here, but I'm trying to create a little bit of separation between me and the background here, even though sometimes I actually like to blend the two. So we'll see. But for now, it's good to create a little bit of separation. Now comes the detail of the background a little bit. Uh, one second. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties here. Okay, there we go. Let me actually take a short break here. I'm going to put out some more of my paint while I don't want to like get started and then have to take a break to do it. Hope I have enough raw umber for this painting. I'm almost out. Yeah, no problem, Des. Let me look real quick and see if I have it here. Don't think I do, but we'll see. Yeah. No, that's not it. Yeah, I don't know if I still have that painting. Trying to see if I, yeah, I don't know if I do. Um, if I do, I don't know where it is right now. So, oh well. So, some advice I would give to anyone who wants to paint, how can I put this? Well, what is the word I'm looking for? Hold on a second, let me think about it. So, anyone who wants to paint, I was going to say like me, but it's not just like me. Anyone who wants to paint like any painter who has like very, um, we'll say artistic interpretation of color, I guess would be the best way of putting it. Like anybody who like doesn't just do like super realistic colors, right? Um, one way to work towards that is um, to take your reference photos and throw them into Photoshop or any art program and adjust them and then paint what you see. Over time, or in time kind of thing, like as you do that, you'll get much better at adjusting everything kind of in your head. Because like there are some artists, if you've seen them, they can do these paintings of like people, and it's like those aren't the colors you see. There's no way you see those colors, but they make it work. Um, and part of the reason that it works is because they're really good at controlling their values, because that's always very important. If you can control your values, the colors matter a lot less. So that's one thing. But the other thing too is just the experience. Like, do it more often, be better at it. And so, um, if you struggle with that and you can't kind of wrap your head around it, that's fine. Start by not just edit it in the computer and then paint what you see. And then over time, you get a lot better at doing it in your head. I speak from experience. Originally, I had to edit everything in the computer and had to do a lot of that. Over time, I got better at not. Don't get me wrong, I still edit a lot of my stuff in the computer. It's easier. It's also less taxing mentally. And especially if I'm doing something that's taxing mentally while painting, like let's say I'm talking and reading chat and making sure that my stream isn't freezing up and so on. Like, yeah, it's a lot easier to not have to worry about it, but um, yeah, it is something that like I definitely can. Well, definitely, I haven't done it, but I'm very confident that I could paint the way I paint from a live model and still do all the same like color stuff and everything anyways. Although painting from a live model brings its own challenges, which, you know, it's been a while since I've done. I used to do it a lot. Now it's been a long time since it's been a while. So I do need to do it some more though. It is really good to paint from live models. Very, very beneficial. If you can. If you can't paint from live models, an alternative, which isn't the same, I recognize that, you can go out and just draw people at like coffee shops and stuff like that. It's very useful. It's not, well, it's not useful in the same way that drawing from a like painting from a live model is, but it's still very beneficial in a lot of ways. I realized I messed up this whole area before. So, gotta fix it a little bit. Hey, Sujan. Sorry if I'm getting that wrong. I always apologize. Good morning, bit late, going to work. Hey, no worries. Have a great day at work. Sorry time zones suck, man. That's the one thing if flat earthers were right about, like if they're really, if it really was a flat earth, like at least we wouldn't have to worry about time zones, right? Like that's the one benefit I could see to that. Reflectors look superb. Oh, thank you very much. Hope you have a good day at work. Thanks for stopping by, even if it was brief. Yeah. So what I'm trying to do is the perspective of you meant the glare or the glasses. Got it. I appreciate it. Thanks for clarifying. Because I wasn't sure. But yeah, how the perspective is changing how we're seeing the water. I'm working on that right now, trying to make this look like we're looking down at it more than over here. It's tough. I'm not going to be able to get full detail in this area. Yeah. So weird. My sound just suddenly like faded out and then faded back in. That's strange. It threw me for a loop. Yeah, I'm gonna clean up the glasses a bit more as I go through it. Um, yeah. I mean, it's there. It's just it needs a little, it'll need a little clarification. But that's always the way it is in painting, you know. Um, It's a process of like clarifying things as you go. Oh, Sujan, if you're still here, and if not, maybe you'll see this later. Um, One of the things I wanted to mention, because we talked briefly about gouache paintings or gouache paints, rather. Uh, I thought I'd mention this for because some people aren't aware of this. One of the things that gouache, so gouache is a very old medium that has been around for a very long time. However, at a certain point in I think it's in the 1900s, like early print, not early print, but like when color print started, I think around that time, it became very popular again because it was really good for advertisement and for photographing because it dries matte. And so because it dries matte, it's easier to photograph, especially when you don't have tools to, deal with glare and so on. And so instead of mixing the paint, what they did was the companies put out, like Winsor Newton had like their designer gouache, and that gouache is very much a like use out of the tube type of thing where you pick the color you want and you use it straight out of the tube kind of thing, with no mixing involved. And so it goes on flat and it goes on matte. Yeah. um, which I thought was interesting. And so nowadays they also make acrylic gouache, which if anyone doesn't know, acrylic gouache is just an acrylic paint. That's it's all it is. It's an acrylic paint that has a matte finish to it. That's the gouache part of it. So just be aware of that. Like there might be slight other differences, but that's essentially all it is. I'm not a fan, but there's nothing wrong with it if that's what you like. Although I think there is acrylic, um, like I think there are well, actually I know there's acrylic matte medium, so you can always mix that in with your acrylics if you want your regular acrylics to be more matte. But yeah, I'm not really saying all that much with what I'm talking about, but I did think it was interesting, like weird facts about paint. There's also casein paint, which what's his name really loves. Um, oh, what is his name? Man, I'm blanking on his name. Um, James Gurney. That's it. He really likes his casein paint. Um, it's not as popular, and I'm sure there's a reason why it's not as popular. I think one of the reasons is the smell, because it's made with a milk byproduct, or which is casein, comes from milk. So it doesn't smell great, is my understanding. Okay. Okay, got the dogs ready for bed, winding down myself. Nice, Des. I looked briefly for that painting I was talking about that I did, but I couldn't find it. Might still have it, but I don't know where it is right now. If I happen to come across it, I will try and put it aside for an example. Never did get a snack yet to put things away and brushed my teeth. Too late for eating. As long as they're not too hungry, you know. I don't know about you, but sometimes I try and do that thing where I'm like, it's late. I won't eat. I'll just go to bed. And usually that works, but every once in a while I go, I'll just go to bed. And then lay in bed. I'm like, I am too hungry to fall asleep right now. Yeah, that does happen sometimes to me. Other thing is, personally, I take some medications, sometimes make me a little nauseous, and then I'm just like, I gotta get up and eat. But that's, like I said, more medication than anything else. The water is a little chaotic, but if I step back, I think it works. Or if I look at the screen, I feel like it kind of works. Like up close, it kind of loses its definition, but at a distance, it works, I think. And given the limitations, I think that's kind of the best I can hope for, almost. Or that's copium on my end, and I should strive for better, but whatever. Okay. So one thing that's worth mentioning is that I've done a lot of photo retouching in my life. That I've done photo retouching for work in the past, and one thing I've noticed while doing photo retouching, um, so the I was thinking about it because of the hair. So hair, obviously hair has a color. Like obviously my hair's dark. So when you have strands of hair that are like on top of other things, in our head we think, okay, the color of the thing, and you just paint it on top of said other thing, right? Like it's kind of self-explanatory. Um, and that's true and yet wrong. And what I mean by that is what what happens is our, you know, with small details like hair, we can't see it, and there's optical blending that happens. And so it appears lighter uh, than it actually is, or like more like the color of the background, or I guess if it's light hair, it might appear darker. Yeah, it's something that you have to kind of blend the background color and the color of the hair together to a degree. It's very situational. It does change. Depends on how far you are. Just a lot of factors. But yeah, it's something to be aware of. And like I said, I learned that through doing photo editing because sometimes I'd have to brush hair in. If I just brushed in thin strands, didn't look right. Sometimes, in fact, I'd have to brush in strands that were a mixture of the colors and also a lot wider than I thought, but fuzzy, like make them real soft. Because everything else was kind of out of focus. Yeah. Some painters will, they'll use what's it called, um, like glazes and actually paint in the hair kind of translucent and wispy, sometimes. And that can be a really cool effect too. Just depends. And I gotta shut down Discord. It's driving me crazy. Or not shut it down, but like minimize it. Oh my God, it's been like flashing in my face this whole time, driving me nuts. Oof. So I am doing a poor job of it. Well, not okay. Let me rephrase. I'm not doing a poor job of it. In comparison, there are painters who are really, really good at this, and you'll see them. Their paintings. You can see it in their paintings. They have these paintings that are like, very, very brushy, but brushy not like my paintings are brushy, but brushy like you can see big strokes, like, you know, like almost like you could count the strokes that they did to paint the painting. And some people do that as an exercise too, by the way. Um, but a lot of people think that's a very like loose, expressive way of painting. And that's the effect it gives, but that is not the experience of painting it. Um, it's a much more controlled, deliberate painting. Like some of these painters, they'll take a brush and they'll load it up and is that I'm looking at? Oh, I see. And they'll put it down and it's real slow and deliberate, like more than what anything I'm doing. Like I don't like I obviously I have aspects of my painting that I do that way, but I don't paint that way like they do. But yeah, it's not a very like it's not a fast way of painting. It's a very sometimes super slow way of painting. And it is like, you know, look, good painters are good painters. Like you see these painters, and you're like, oh, I wish I could do that. And then you see a painter who does the exact opposite, and you're like, oh, I wish I could do that too. Yeah. There's always someone who's really good at it. All right, I'm going to try and zoom in a little here for the viewers. Uh, uh, can we go down at all? Oh, there we go. All right, there we go. Because I'm going to be working on the face a little right now. So we'll see. You watched a guy paint an apple yesterday and it and counted the strokes. It was slow and very deliberate process. Some strokes you don't know why he did. Yeah, well, one of the reasons people do that exercise where they count the strokes, there's a few reasons. One is to get that effect. They want to have a brushy, loose looking painting, all that stuff. Another is to eliminate those unnecessary strokes. So sometimes you only see that you're making unnecessary strokes that way, kind of thing. Like, trust me, I make a ton of unnecessary strokes. But unnecessary might be the wrong word for it as far as I'm concerned because of how I paint. Um, yeah, like over time, a lot of those strokes will be unnecessary, but right now they're necessary. But I could get to the point where they're not. Yeah, and that's what those exercises are good for. Beards are and mustaches, hair in general, but beards more than like head hair. is very challenging because it, covers like where hair and skin meet in general is challenging, and the beard, beards can be very, um, what I'm looking for. Like the coverage sometimes it's not the best. Mine is pretty good, but they can be patchy and they can be transparent to a degree. Very challenging. And you don't do whatever you want. Some people like that style. I don't want to fall into the trap of painting every single strand of hair. To me, that's a trap. Often, when you do, in my experience, for my style of painting, often when I paint something with less detail, less information, it's actually better than uh, with a lot. Yeah. And you can layer hair. Like some people, especially digital artists, they do this where they layer hair. So they'll paint um they'll paint the skin as if there's no hair, right? And they'll go and paint the hair in, and the idea is that the because that's how it works in real life, like our hair is on top of our skin. The idea is that it will look right and you'll get, a good result. And it depends, you know, like many things, it just kind of depends. That's not entirely how I would go about doing it. Um, yeah, I've, you can kind of do that a little bit, but too much and it looks, I don't know, mechanical and wrong. At least, once again, it all depends on the painting style. Some painting styles will demand that, and not mine. I remember I did a painting. I don't know if it's on my website. It was a gift for my mom. It was my aunt and me as a baby. Um, Not a baby, little child. Um, and I went in and I was painting my eye, and I went in there and did all the like, our eyes are really cool. If you look real closely at our eyes, ton of little details in there. It's really, really cool stuff. I forget, I don't remember what any of that stuff is called, but there's names for it all. Really, really cool stuff. Um, so I went in and started doing all that. And if I looked just at that, it looked fine. But as soon as I like looked at the whole painting, it just looked wrong. So I ended up like taking it all off and just painting it in a very like far less detail, and it looked so much better. I will say this though, with hair, sometimes layering certain aspects of it is really good. I'm actually kind of doing that right now. Like I'm putting in darks and I will be going in with like lighter paint on top and layering in that a bit. That does help create depth. And that is a trick that I mostly learned, or actually, I don't know about that. I originally learned when I learned how to paint digitally. I wouldn't go as far as to say that that's where that comes from, but that's where I personally learned it. Yeah. I should try and do one of those exercises where I count the brush strokes. I've never done that personally, mostly because I feel like I will um, lose track. I didn't realize some of my strokes were off screen. Oops. Sorry about that. The zoom in feature is really cool, but it is hard to keep track of it all the time. You wouldn't think it is, but it is. Maybe I can do that on stream one day, make it a like an event. Like I'm going to practice that and I'll do the thing where it's like first one's like 30 strokes, second, 50 or 50, second one's 30, second one's, 10. Then it's like at the end you're like painting the whole painting in like 3 strokes or whatever. Yeah, obviously it'll get real abstract at that point, but cool. Almost went for my normal yellow. I need to finish the beard or the mustache area. Definitely need to do that. One of the things I like to do when I paint hair, and I don't necessarily recommend this, nor do I also think you shouldn't do it. I tend to paint hair a lot of times um, perpendicular to the hair. Like usually people, when they paint hair, they follow the stroke of the hair, and I do too. Um, it's a very like that makes sense, right? Hair goes in this direction, painted in this direction. Like it starts here and moves, so you paint it like that. Like that, it's very intuitive and makes a lot of sense. Um, However, I also paint in the opposite direction or perpendicular, 90 degrees, I guess, of that. The reason is mostly for two reasons. One, I almost never use rigger brushes, and if you're doing like, or round brushes for that matter, those brushes are really good for hair in that direction. And so if you want a thin line with with a with a flat brush, the way to get that is the edge, but it doesn't drag well. It just so yeah. But um, the other reason is I can't remember the name of the artist right now, unfortunately. I saw an artist, comic book artist, who inked hair like that, and I thought that was so cool. And I thought I loved how like abstract it was, because he would ink like chunks of hair in like the opposite direction, and it was just it was different, but I don't know, it allowed for different design elements. uh I like the idea that you can make something that's like the opposite of what it is look like the thing. um yeah, the same way, like I don't want to do the Bob Ross technique of like, oh, if I'm going to paint grass, I need to make sure to get like a brush that can make grass effects, you know? It's like, no, I want to be able to make grass effects with a flat, chunky brush. So it's that kind of thing. Not entirely against using brushes to get effects, by the way. I don't want to like I don't want it to be gimmicky. That's all. I say that but I'll be honest, there are probably sometimes I do want it to be gimmicky because, like, sometimes we all like to have fun. You need to figure out how to use the damn brushes in the first places. I mean, it is challenging. It can be very challenging. My thing is there's this painter, I'm trying to remember what his name is online. I think it's Mike the Gouache guy, but I could be wrong. But like he paints a lot in gouache, hence the name. He's a really good painter, like just fantastic. Uh, but um, he has done paintings, I think mostly digital, where he does the whole painting with like flat square brushes. And when I say flat square brushes, I mean cubes. Like they're brushes that are like literally a square. It's digital. And he just painted the whole thing like that. No mixing at all in any way. Um, yeah, he's really good. But it is a good, illustration of the fact that you can do that. It's almost midnight and you're yawning nonstop, so you'll be going to bed. You'll watch the video when you in the morning. Oh, thank you. That's sweet. Well, have a good night, Des. I hope you sleep well. Yeah. And good luck with the painting, you know? See ya. There we go. I realized I was painting outside of the area too much, so I'm just gonna leave it at as large and just do, whatever. I keep moving out of the painting area or the viewing area. Wish I had more to talk about off the top of my head, but I guess I don't today. when painting hair, beards, all of it. Like it's good to chunk out the big areas. That's like how they recommend it, and it is. But it's also when towards the end important to make sure that it's not too like standardized, and also especially beards, but hair too, depending, tend to have a lot of like uh stray randomness to it. And while like I don't want to paint every little hair, it's worth, keeping in mind because you don't want it to look too uniform unless that's a look you're going for. Uh, All right, let's see. Oh, wow, it's already 10. Cool. All right, quick stretching break. Important. Important to stretch. Whoa, I had a lot of views today. That's shocking. Well, a lot of views for me, that is, you know. Those aren't concurrent views, but huh. Wonder what's going on there. I'll have to look at it after the fact. Well, welcome viewers. No one's sticking around, but welcome viewers. I appreciate the people that do stop by. So would never say that this is accurate to my hair color. Even in the edit, like this is a lot more um, muted. But because I'm trying to get the gray to be, more blue, not even gray, but the less saturated color to be more blue, I'm not even going to on my hair do that. I'm going to saturate the color of my hair way more than it actually is. Because the idea is that it's the contrast that I'm playing off of. So I'm not a redhead. I do have some red in my hair, but I'm not a redhead. But I am going to push that warm, saturated color because I have no other options. Like yeah, that's it. I just don't have the options. Little gnat flying around. That's annoying. The other thing is kind of what I was talking about before, which is like I'm not going to go in and paint all the and I will paint some of the hair in like brushes and stuff, like brush in some of it, but I don't want to go in and paint every individual like, hairline. So instead, what I do is I go in some pretty chunky brush marks. Um, that way there's no expectation of anything else. It's not just expectation, it's all kind of combining to the stylization. gloves make opening these so much harder sometimes. So if anyone who's watching this has seen plein air paintings where they um, there's a how can I put this? So sometimes, so theoretically, when you paint, when you're doing plein air painting, a lot of painters will do the will paint the background of like the sky first, right? Or trees, or I'm not trees, or buildings or grass or whatever. Anything where there's like a tree in front of it, and they know that the tree is going to have gaps in it, um, right? In the leaves, they'll paint it first, and then they will paint the tree over it, and leave gaps. That's a very common technique if you've ever seen it. But another common and popular one is to take to paint the tree and then take the color and kind of paint, like, let's say paint the sky back in, and it has a particular look. It's neither here nor there as far as like, oh, this is how you should do it, or this is the right way, or whatever. Just saying, that's a technique that people use. It definitely has a look. You can tell, unless they're like really, really trying to cover it, which they're usually not. Um, but yeah, the reason I mention it is because I am probably going to have to use some of those techniques here with the hair, because like I didn't get it 100% right. So I'm going to paint back into it with the water. And then there are places where it, there are gaps in the hair. So I'm going to use the same kind of technique to do that. That's all. And that's really weird. My view count is like climbing, just keeps climbing. For me, that's a lot more views than I'm used to getting, but not a lot of like concurrent viewers. So I'm wondering what's going on. It's a little weird, but I'll have to check it out later, like I said. If anyone's stopping by all means, feel free to hop into chat and talk, ask questions, or don't. Whatever you're comfortable with, obviously. Hairlines are definitely a tricky area to paint. Um, it depends on how close you expect your viewer to get. Is also uh, a, a way you can determine how to paint hairlines. It's like if it's a small figure or you know the viewer's not going to get anywhere near it, by all means, just you don't need to put any detail in. Just mix the color that is the color of the skin and the hair meeting, like the average, and you're done. You don't need to do anything else. I'm not going to say it hasn't gotten slightly more pronounced with age, because I think it has, but I've always had quite the widow's peak. Or it's actually, this part hasn't been down, but these parts have always been pretty back. Like I said, I think it's gotten a little worse with age, but yeah, always been there to a degree. I'm trying to be careful and not put in like my lightest lights or my like real like what I would call highlights. But at the same time, I do need to put in some of my lighter elements here. Because without it, there's no definition here. One of the things I'll never forget is there used to be this website, conceptart.org. It's gone and come and gone back and come again. I don't know if it's back or not. It is a great resource for digital painters and painters as well, but obviously the focus was digital. Um, but I will never forget this one painting I saw there that someone did. It was a beautiful painting, but they showed what it was, um, as is kind of thing. And then they took off a layer, which was nothing more than a layer, like a translucent layer of canvas texture. So all it did was add like just the texture of a canvas over it. The rest of the painting was the same in every way. And it was wild how much of the detail the painting just lost in that instance. So much of the painting of the detail was just all this like noise from the canvas texture. And I just remember that so vividly. And I'm not saying that's like a good thing to strive for or anything like that, but I'm just saying like it's something to keep in mind that implied details um, don't have to be real details. Mhm. I said this earlier, but in case someone's just coming in or whatever it is, um, this painting has, um, excuse me, this painting I'm doing for a class with Nicholas Uribe. And there's a lot of limitations on the palette and so on. It's not my normal palette at all. Um, and that's why a lot of the colors are also kind of weird or unnatural or whatever, however you want to phrase it. A lot of the painting gets, that's the thing about painting, it's all relative. So yeah, I have to adjust a ton of it uh, to work with it, because to give me the relative tone or color or whatever that I want. It's not perfect, but that's the idea, at least. I'm probably going to be calling it a night soon. I usually go for about 2 hours during the week. Um, I stream on, usually it's Monday night, Wednesday night, and Sunday day. Obviously, today was, uh, you know, a little off schedule. But yeah, that's my streaming schedule during the week. Often I just do about 2 hours on the weekend on Sundays, usually 3 to 4, depending. Uh, all just depends on how much I can do. Painting and talking like this is surprisingly, uh, I don't know if it's the talking so much as it's the like reading chat and everything, but it's surprisingly exhausting. I often am like completely wiped out afterwards. So it just kind of depends on what I'm up for. But yeah, I'll be calling it a night soon. And follow me on, do the YouTube things, whatever. You know how it goes. I feel like I don't need to tell people at this point. And yeah, if you're watching this after the fact, you can always ask me questions in the comments. You can hop into my Discord. You can follow me and ask me questions on, Instagram or Twitter or whatever. All right. I'm going to call it a night. I'm feeling my energy just plummet. What is happening? Did my stream fall apart? Let's see. I'm getting some suggestions. What's this? Oh, the audio bit rate. Yeah, I know. I know. It keeps warning me that my audio bit rate is at 0 when I'm not talking. It's like, yeah, it's at 0 because I'm not talking. Anyways, anyone who's been here, anyone watching after the fact, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's like I said, I stream Sunday day, Monday evening or Monday night, Wednesday night, Central Time. And yeah, that's all I got for now. Have a good weekend, everybody, and see you on Sunday, hopefully. Have a good one. Bye.